I really appreciate that we start with that kind of question. It's incredibly important, the whole area of soft skills, because of a lot of employee-based and employer-based surveys going on now. I just happened to be looking today at a 2011-2012 study called Trends in Executive Development, a benchmark report. This was published by Pearson Talent Lens and Executive Development Associates, Inc., and it was providing a number of very interesting metrics on what this soft skills area means. For example, their big number was that almost 56% of the companies believe that the lack of their bench strength is the most important condition affecting executive development during the next 2 to 3 years. Well, here we are in the middle of a recession, and they're basically saying that it's not hard skills. They don't necessarily need accountants, financial managers. What they need are people with good soft skills. And another statistic they presented was that 32% of the respondents identified a need for increased collaboration across the organization. Well, collaboration is a soft skill. 24% indicated that the next generation of employees who have different needs, interests, and values is a new generation, and they have to have these soft skills. So let's talk about what some of these soft skills are. Initially, I would say business etiquette and manners leads off soft skills very, very easily. I, as an ex-corporate exec, have had a number of people come into my office for interviews and the like, and they have the business manners of basically a 12-year-old adolescent, and they're trying to come across as a business person. Another important one, verbal communications, which dovetails with manners and etiquette. And that's really the whole area of being able to convey orally your ideas without going hum-ha, hum-ha. Written communications. Again, very critical success factor for any business person at this time. In many of my MBA and BBA courses, one of the elements I try to convey to them constantly is, even in your emails, make sure everything is spell checked, your grammar is correct, you don't use emoticons or shortcuts. Why? Because you never know where this particular piece of communication will be dredged up again. There's a whole area of digital dirt around that can follow you everywhere to your next employer that would convey, if someone wants to do a deep enough internet search, that you can't write. A fourth area, critical thinking. This was one of the key elements when we did our original focus groups for the project-based programs. In fact, the first 4 or 5 elements were critical thinking, written communication, verbal communication, decision-making skills. All of these were more critical than the hard skills of accounting, finance, any of the other hard trade-like skills we teach at university. Conflict resolution, another critical element. The ability to get around barriers when they're presented by people. Creativity, incredible soft skill. And this is a very difficult one to teach, and maybe later in the program we'll start to address some of these skills on how do we really teach this stuff. Emotional intelligence. Well, this is one we use in both the project-based BBA and the project-based MBA. Emotional intelligence is really that capability to handle yourself and handle other people from an emotional perspective. Emotional intelligence can change over time. We can actually increase our emotional intelligence. Whereas with IQ, it usually hovers around the same area, 1 or 2 points above or below during our lifetime. Now, I've mentioned decision-making before, and decision-making is still a critical element. The ability to separate nuggets from noise and make a bloody decision. Innovation. Again, another one like creativity, very difficult to describe initially, but definitely a soft skill, especially in certain particular career areas. Interpersonal relationship building. How many people have you talked to who had the interpersonal relationship skills of that 12-year-old adolescent? Persuasion and negotiation. I mean, how can you get your point across in a written or verbal communication mode if you can't persuade and negotiate with people? Personal branding, another area that our project-based programs have helped many of our learners to develop. Problem solving goes hand in hand with decision making. If we cannot decide on something, we're certainly not going to be able to make a solution that will solve a problem. And as you get further and further in business and management and leadership, you don't solve problems anymore. You're presented with dilemmas, and there are no win-win situations, and you have to decide. Self-discipline, self-motivation, self-regard. 3 critical elements of the balanced individual: rigor, sociability, leadership, teamship, fellowship, communityship. I mean, the last 4 are all intertwined very closely together. And these are areas that no one formally teaches us about, that we have to usually pick up by the seat of our pants. And in project-based programs, our work helps the individuals to master the competencies, something I'll come back to a little bit later, something we use a lot in our project-based programs, the competencies associated with different leadership skills, teamship skills, fellowship skills, and the ability to build community.